You're going to get fired from your normie job. Alright, guys, I thought I would tell you a story that's been on my mind lately, and that's regarding a job I used to have and how I ultimately got fired. So, a while back, I was working a corporate, crappy minimum wage type of gig that I just picked up for a bit because I needed something to carry me over from point A to point B. And it really gave me an important perspective on why it is so important to begin to try your hardest to escape this rat race that so many people are in and try to create your own wealth so you can get out of this type of environment. So, first of all, let's just get right into it. You are, in these types of jobs, surrounded by the lowest of the low kind of people. You're surrounded by people who have decided that for whatever reason, they want to invest their time into a corporate machine that could not care less about them. These people are oftentimes low IQ, we could say. And instead of realizing that this is the dynamic and understanding that they're a cog in a machine that just wants to use them, they sort of go about their day like fully embracing their cog in the wheel status and almost being creepily enough like a little bit happy and content about it. And I could not imagine, man. Could not be me. Imagine being virtually like a slave to this company who's paying you basically the lowest they can legally get away with, right? And being happy about it and sort of just going along like everything's just fine and that you're not in the dire situation that you are in. You see, I knew getting into this job, it wasn't going to be the best situation to be in. I knew there was nothing good that was going to come from slaving away hours of one's time, cleaning toilets, dealing with petty customer complaints for, a terrible wage, really, other than just what I signed up for, which was to get me to point A to point B, to get a little bit of money in the bank. It was a sort of a dire situation, just needed to make something happen. But a lot of these people working in these jobs are just kind of like numb to it. Like they don't realize how much of a slave they are and how much of their life force they're trading away for such a minuscule return. And some of them are even like, well, I'm trying to become the manager here or something. It's like for what? Like, so you can get even more entwined with this crap company that is still never going to see you as anything more than just like a means to an end, right? The way these big corporate companies work is they're almost kind of like a pyramid scheme in a way, with the people at the bottom sort of voluntarily allowing themselves to be schemed. And I always hear this sentiment being lamented, which is like, why can't they just pay us more, right? We do all this work and we have to deal with all the worst part of this business, all the crap. Why can't they just pay us more? It's because these companies do not exist for you. The franchise, the corporation, whatever you want to call it, it exists for the people at the top. It exists for the CEO, the people under him, and maybe like a few people under them, right? But once it gets down to the level of like the regional manager, the manager, and then God forbid the employees under them, it's like, realize this, you are just a cog, and they haven't figured out how to replace you yet with like the politically correct AI robot, right? But they're working on it. They're working on it daily, and they're trying to make that happen because you are nothing more than a tool. They're not trying to make their tools' dreams come true, right? You're not looking in your shed, looking at your wrench and your drill and all this and thinking, how do I how do I make these tools' dreams come true, right? They don't care if you have money or that if you're taken care of. They give you like a little bit. They give you a little bit of breadcrumbs to tide you over so you can keep showing up, so you can like clean the crap and take the crap, and they can continue to make their dreams come true at your expense, these people at the top, right? And as soon as the AI robot comes and they can check the boxes and they can perform the tasks that you're currently doing, you make the drinks, whatever, clean the crap, take the BS from the customers, and they can do all that, and they can hardly ever make a mistake, and they can never really talk back, right? Because that's not how they're programmed. As soon as that is available, you better know damn well that these companies are going to take that option, and they're going to replace you, and you're going to be out on your ass. With that being said, right now these companies, they have to settle for you, right? And they want you to act as close to that AI drone as possible. And this is why I say that you're going to get fired from this normie job. Because if you're listening to this, you're probably not completely a normie, right? You're probably sort of an outside the box thinker kind of person. And that's exactly what more and more of these types of jobs despise. They hate the person who can see through the BS. They hate the person who's going to sit back and say, you know what, I'm happy to help, but there comes like a certain level of stress or a certain level of nonsensory that I am just going to not put up with for what I'm being compensated, right? And you know what? If I think of a funny joke or something like that, if you think of something funny at work, you want to be able to just sit back and like say it and not really worry too much, right? You want to kind of be able to relax a bit. If you see like an attractive girl, you might want to strike up a conversation with her like a normal human male would do, right? But they can't have that because that sort of stuff makes you a liability. And this is why these sort of jobs and this sort of an environment, if you're not a normie, it's going to be very bad for you because you're always going to be performing a sort of self-repression upon yourself. You're never going to be able to just relax and be anything close to who you really are. Every thought that goes through your mind, you're going to have to police. Every time someone above you tells you how important it is to clean the toilet that way instead of this way, and check this box instead of that box, when ultimately it's all nonsensical, it doesn't matter, right? You're not going to be able to talk back or just say what's really on your mind or anything. You're going to have to police those thoughts, and you're going to have to pretend that you think it matters. And this wears on you, right? That's the worst part about these sort of jobs. You have to repress yourself into this like little castrated person. I got fired from one of those jobs. A few of the other employees who were nerds, honestly, they decided they didn't like me. And I think, honestly, they didn't like what I represented, right? I am an in-shape person. I wasn't afraid to call them on their BS when they were being immature, just being lame. They'd always sort of be like, they trolling and acting unprofessional. And like, I just wasn't really going along with it. Like, I sort of let them know, like, hey, I get it. You're all friends. We're all working here, even though it doesn't make sense to be here. And you're all like pretending that you're all funny and whatever, right? And I think they sort of knew from the get-go that I really wasn't interested in being like in their group. I think they didn't like too much that, I wasn't really up for being a politically correct dork. And I think after that was established, they kind of decided at that point that I was on their radar. So eventually I have a sort of confrontation with one of the other employees who he keeps playing this like weird ass music for everybody to hear, these like long, weird, depressing instrumental songs. And I finally confront him and I'm like, come on, man. Like, I thought we talked about this before. Like, what is the deal with this? I'm not trying to listen to this stuff all night long or in the middle of the day or whatever. And he's like calling it, oh, it's my study music or whatever. It's like, come on, bro. Without saying too much of, where I was working, it's like, we're not in a library, man. This ain't a library. I talked to him man to man, mano a mano, but he didn't take it well at all. And instead of responding to me directly, right, he kind of shuts down on the spot. He doesn't want to look at me anymore. He doesn't take it well. And a few days later, I get informed that he's been talking to all the other employees about me and talking to the manager, and has basically compiled this like exaggeratedly long list of things that I've done, like a little rat, right? And I say done in quotation marks because now my manager, she gets HR involved, and they're asking me random stuff like, oh, did you mention beating your girlfriend or something like that? And I'm like, hold up. I don't have it. Actually, no, it was beating your wife. It was like, I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend at this point. And I'm like, hold up. I know the exact context of that. People were playing around. They were like slapping each other. And one of them said like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And as a complete joke, a pretty funny joke, I think, I said, yeah, that's what I say to my wife. Like, completely just the kind of stuff that you would just want to joke around with employees, or just like, I don't know, just something to liven up the workforce. It's like, that's a pretty benign joke. I'm not endorsing beating your wife. I didn't say, hey guys, by the way, I beat my wife. Literally, I'm like making a joke about how messed up domestic abuse is in a way. And it's like, so now things are being taken completely out of context in order to be weaponized against me, all because I think I just sort of was who I was, and I didn't put on this fake veneer of like, yeah, I'm just another one of you guys. I'm just like a really low testosterone dork that doesn't ever want to talk to girls because I jerk it off all day like you dorks, right? It's like, that's another thing that they were saying, that I was talking to girls, I was making them feel weird. It's like, you know what? I talked to a few girls at work. Yeah, I asked them, I was like, hey, what's up? Like, can I get your Instagram? Can I get your number? I talked to some girls. Some were like very receptive. Some I actually hung out with outside of work. Some were neutral. They were like, nah, got a boyfriend. Happy you asked though. And then I don't know, maybe some were like, they didn't want me to talk to them at all. And it's like, all right, I get it, but I never like pursued people that didn't want to be pursued, or like continue talking to people. It was just kind of like, hey, how you doing? That kind of stuff. But just that amount of interaction will be weaponized against you if you're like a man with a certain amount of testosterone. Like, that's how bad things are in these jobs these days, that you cannot simply be a man, strike up a conversation with like an attractive girl and be completely normal about it. Like, if that sort of simple interaction, that's going to be all it takes to be used as a mark against you. It's like, oh, you made her feel uncomfortable because I said hi, I expressed interest, and if the interest wasn't expressed back, I was like, cool, no problem, have a great day. That's the extent of that. And this stuff wasn't even like an on the clock thing. Maybe once, maybe I did it on the clock once. But it's like, honestly, it's really strange. Like, there are these strange guys out there who will, like, they'll follow people around. They'll keep texting them after they've said no. They'll just be complete weirdos. And it was nothing like that at all. It was the most benign interaction taken out of context. And the fact that they would use, like, a joke against me as well, I think, like, illustrates that so well. You just finding any little weird thing I've said that other people have said a million times that could have been used against them, but you try to compile this list. So it's like, that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen to you. You will get fired from your normie job simply for being a man with a bit of testosterone, or maybe not even a man, just this, women could fall into this category too. If you're just someone that is like real, that can't really stand the corporate environment, the fake corporate environment, who doesn't want to like acquiesce to every other weirdo dork that you work with. Maybe sometimes you flirt with somebody, right? God forbid. That's what's going to happen to you. You're going to get fired from this normie job. You can and will be considered too real to work at these places where, the men are happy to act like women, basically, and the women, they take charge, and it all becomes this weird androgynous blob. If you look at the corporate environment, this is like what's happening a lot. There's tons of like women managers and just a little like soy boys following them around. It's bad, right? But, if you speak your mind, you truly want to be yourself and, occasionally point out how absurd things are. The people at that normie job, they aren't going to like you. There's something about you that they just aren't going to be able to stand, and you're not going to last long there. If you're listening to this video, and especially if you made it this far, and you feel like, your normie job is wearing on you, that's because it absolutely should be. You're like, you're probably somebody with a big goal or these high aspirations, and you're surrounded by small-minded people who are okay with a mediocre life, and it's a recipe for driving you crazy, honestly. It's absolutely not natural for an adult, fully grown male to have to stifle and repress his true self and stuff it down the way that these jobs require. You can't be yourself. You're taking orders from women. The whole chain of command is like radically feminized. There's nothing good about this sort of stuff for any sort of self-respecting man. It's just being in the uniform, it has to be like killing your testosterone. Believe me, you feel like a gimp in a way, because you know who you are. You know that you are sort of maybe like more of a leader. You know that you're like intelligent. You know you have things to offer, but you just sort of are like strapped down, wear this uniform, be nice, smile at everybody, take all this crap. You feel like a gimp in a way. You want freedom and independence as a man, and that's exactly the sort of thing that is going to make you not work in these sort of environments. You know, you want to say what you want, you want to do what you want. And the mark of a successful free man is the ability to do that. And if that's something you desire, then, you know, I just believe entering into one of these jobs, maybe you have to do it, but it's going to be a short ordeal for you, because your biology is simply going to rebel. Some people were born to be free, and some were born to be slaves. And if you weren't born to be a slave, you're going to put on the slave attire, and you're instantly going to realize, at least, you know, a deep part of you will, maybe the most important part of you will, that you have donned the slave attire and you're effectively about to perform the slave duties to your new master, right? They've got you by that financial grip. You're going to get fired from your normie job. Instead, guys, you must begin to really take this stuff seriously and build the skills and truly study how to become financially free. It is the stuff that I've talked about recently. And, you know, if that stuff bothers you, if the stuff I've talked about in this video bothers you, consider really thinking about, like, how you might be getting out of these kind of environments. Consider starting a business, or at least, like, vetting the people that you're looking to work for to see sort of what their ethos is, to see sort of what the environment is going to be like. You know, are they going to give you the amount of, like, freedom that you sort of need, just the ability to, like, express yourself to be happy, or are they going to expect you to really take the knee and, like, mold to their organization in this way that you're just not going to be able to stand, right? You got to try to organize your life in a way that allows you more of this independence. If you're stuck in one of these gigs right now, look around and think, like, what might be a better fit for me? Do I have any ideas I'd like to try? Would there be, like, a job I could work more, like, independently? Like, how could I, at this stage in my life, ascertain more freedom? Because the corporate jobs, you know, the Lowe's, Home Depot, the Walmarts, the Planet Fitness, it's they're not going to work for you. And the higher you climb the ladder, the more spotlight that you're going to be under, and the worse it's going to get, and things simply are not going to get better. So it's really important, you guys, to take control of your life, my friends. That's why I like wasting so much time on social media and just the way that society is set up right now to, like, make sure you're just like this skillless, rudderless person. It's so detrimental, because you get to a certain point where you start to have to do things on your own, and then you realize that because you haven't gained any of these skills, because you haven't been building yourself up in the right way, you don't have the skills to get, like, the better jobs or to create wealth for yourself. And then you're, like, all of a sudden applying to these really low-end corporate jobs, and you get punished for that, right? It's like the universe punishes you for your lack of action, for your stagnation, and then you get punished. You got to put on the gimp uniform and act like a little gimp. So take control of your life, guys. Figure out how you're going to become financially free. Figure out a plan. Figure out what you're going to work towards. That's the biggest way to be a rebel in 2024 in the modern day. And it's the only path to freedom, right, guys? There's the physique. It's so important. Everybody talks about going to the gym. We got to figure out the money stuff, guys. We got to become more money-minded. You're going to figure this out. It's easy to just be like, young, I'm in my 20s, I got my parents got my back, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm just going to think about that, I'm going to hang out with friends. You got to start thinking about the money side of things, because there's going to come a time, and it comes at a hard time too. It comes at a time where you're losing that familial support. You're losing that support. People are looking at you like, okay, you're an adult now, figure it out. That's when you're going to need to have this stuff in place, and it gets even harder if you're on your own to make it happen, because now you gotta spend all your time keeping yourself above water. So if you're young and you got that freedom, like, take control of your life, guys. Figure out how you're going to become financially free. Start thinking about that money. That's going to be the biggest way to be a rebel in 2024, and it's really the only true path to freedom. Otherwise, you're just going to be somebody else's sort of whipping boy, and you're going to be making their dreams come true at the expense of your own. That's just how it's going to work. So that's it for the video today, guys. I needed to rant a little bit. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you did, please share your thoughts, like the video, and subscribe for more. You can also follow me on X, where I post extra written content. The link is in the description for that. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.